Listen to the chickens or the roosters.
Like
That's,
3
uh, so it's Sherry Clergis from At 45, and I'm so excited to be talking to April Rose Moore from Oregon, but she's in the beautiful Indonesia, Bali, I think it used
a.m.
said.
Yeah.
And we're so excited to have you joining us. And there's just so
Okay.
much to
Oh,
talk about, April. um, how did you get to be in Indonesia?
I'm visiting a friend I met in Costa Rica about 3 years ago, Natasha. She is here in Bali with her boyfriend, Prithvi, and they are working on cleaning up the plastic. That's quite a problem that goes down into the ocean. They invited anyone over here who could contribute substantially to their cause, and I offered my photography, and they said, come on over. So here I am for a month.
Wow, that's fascinating. And there's so much happening with the ocean. I read actually in the news the other day that they've discovered another center of huge amount of plastic in a new part of the ocean that they didn't know existed.
Well, they were actually up here inland, cleaning up the plastic from the source, the villages. The plastic is either burned or washes out to ocean. And when the plastic burns, it gets inside your body easier. You can breathe it easier, and it's a hormone disruptor. So it's pretty important to take care of it as a source.
Absolutely.
More information at Ecstatic Ocean Initiative.
Is there a website like .com kind of thing?
They're working on the website right now. They're looking for funding for everything, for the warehouse and machinery, and they're on Facebook right now.
Okay, good. I'll put that information at the bottom of the video.
Okay.
So the reason that we've been working together for the last 3 years, I think it is, April, you've been doing photography, amazing photography, and contributing a series called Aura of Woman, which is images of women over 45 who are celebrating who they are and loving their body. It's absolutely an amazing body of work that you've created, and thanks so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you for having me.
So
I'm looking forward to visiting you in Vancouver and continuing this process.
Yes.
And for the magazine.
It's going to be amazing that you're in Vancouver. I actually can't wait to meet you in person, and for women in Vancouver to have the experience of amazing photography. So how did you get into photography, April?
Oh, I've been an artist since I was 3 years old. My mom was an artist and my grandma was an artist. My mom and I would go to Watercolor Society of Oregon contests, judged by nationwide jurors, and I learned that way. And then I met my husband, who was a scuba diving instructor, and he did underwater photography and was published in Underwater USA, and he taught me about photography so I could transition from watercolors over to photography pretty easily. I understand the concept of art, you know?
And so you've been doing photography for how long then?
10 years, 11 years, full-time professional.
Wow. And you've had some amazing success with your images.
I feel pretty successful. I have very high job satisfaction.
Yes. Oh, so I'm curious, what makes a winning picture? Like how do you approach a winning picture?
For me, my favorite elements are sensuality and a hint of fairy tale. I think I was inspired mostly by Brian Froud growing up, you know, the fairy art. I call myself a fairy artist, but it's a little bit more mainstream than that. I just carry through those elements. I really love the magic of pre-Raphaelite art, the romanticism.
And your pictures really capture that, your collection of pictures for Aura of Woman, because they all have a theme, and they belong to something. It's not just a picture of a person. It's a woman in an environment, and there is a story in that environment. So,
I like wild women in nature. That's my favorite.
well, and I think there's wild woman in every one of us.
I hope to
So
capture that. The Queen Elizabeth Gardens and Ambleside Beach.
yes, yes.
Looks like
Those,
drop.
those are two amazing places in Vancouver. I mean, Vancouver is filled with many amazing places, but those are two special places, I think, in Vancouver. So they're going to make perfect backdrops for what you're trying to do. What's
Awesome.
the most silly thing you've done to get a picture? Because I know some of the women have shared their stories, and it's like you've been in freezing water.
Oh yeah. Probably the most is spending 3 hours in freezing water, but I have good insulation on my body, so I don't get too cold. Mostly I get distracted by photography so much that I'm not even aware of what I'm doing. I've had clients videotape me during a photo shoot, and I'm standing on my head. I'm doing the split just to get the right angle, and I thought, that? And I suppose the most dangerous thing I do on a regular basis is climbing over slippery rocks in the river with my camera. And so far, knock on wood, I've made it together. I've thrown my arms up around in the air, and I've fallen in the water to catch my camera over my head. And yeah, I'm standing too close to the edges of cliffs. I climbed trees with one arm. Yeah, I'm not the safest.
Well, I mean, that kind of risk seems to generate beautiful pictures, so it seems well worth it.
Oh, thank you.
So a lot of the stories in the women that you share their pictures in Aura of Woman, a lot of those stories are very personal, and speak to a real journey of self-discovery. And I was just curious, what is the most gratifying response you've received from a photo op?
One made me sob at one point. She said that she was in the hospital. She was suicidal. And then I had delivered her edited pictures to her, and she told me thank you so much, that she really needed to see those that day, and that she was really feeling down about herself. And now she was able to see her own beauty, and she feels much more empowered. And I was not aware that what I did had that much of an impact. And I've heard things from other people, not quite as shocking as that. But I would say a large part of my clientele involves 40-year-old women who have been recently divorced. And, that's the most terrifying thing that can happen to a woman in her lifetime, is to be divorced at the age of 40. But I personally found it extremely liberating and exciting. So I help them reconnect with their sensuality and vitality.
Well, and I
So
think
that's a sense of job satisfaction right there.
right. And I think that really comes through in the work, and why at 45 and April Rose Moore photography go well together is because, I mean, I personally started the magazine because I was on that journey. I realized that I was not in touch with myself at all, and that who I was just gone, and so I needed to re-identify with myself And that sensuality, you can't feel sensual if you are not in touch with yourself.
Or
So
if you've been criticized, emotionally abused, made to feel worthless or substandard in some way, which happens a
yeah,
lot. I've gone through that journey myself, so I understand. And luckily, I had great parents who told me I was beautiful and capable my whole life, and so I have the self-confidence to do what I want and feel good about myself, and hopefully be an example for other people who've gone through that same problem.
absolutely. Yeah, each of us as women have a journey that that is individual and unique, but in the end, um, who we are comes from a lot of different things, and I think the photography in that seems to help women capture what they can't see when they look in the mirror.
I show them what I see, which is beauty.
Yes. Well, you do an
And
amazing
I
job at it, April.
think I truly love them.
So, it's touching for you as a photographer, but it's also very touching for the people who are looking at the picture. So all that emotion comes through.
Cool.
I think one thing, just sort of, on a lighter tone, is that in this day of social media, I mean, every woman is trying to look beautiful and trying to capture, their optimum self in selfies. And it's a form of photography. And it's always funny to me because it's like people who don't even have a talent for it, which like would be me, are trying to showcase themselves or their product or whatever in the most optimum way, and yet we have no skills at it. So do you have any tips like for women
I'm looking at a little picture right now, which I can barely see because I'm not wearing my glasses. I am looking for light and angle, so I'm looking up a little bit to get rid of this double chin, right? I don't want to go like that. And if you put your face up, you get rid of these bags under your eyes, like if I'm like this, it's just not as good, right?
Oh, that shows the difference, really.
Yeah, the sun is behind my head. I'm more of a silhouette now. The shadows are kind of harsh. But today, it's overcast, which is great light. It's not noon or harsh light. The best time to do it would be like the hour after sunrise and before sunset. That's the softest light. And I love overcast light. It gives more even skin tone.
Oh, so that's interesting. So it's not that we need to be looking for the brightest day at the beach kind of thing. More subdued lighting actually makes a better
Yes.
picture.
And when I take pictures of people, I use a reflector. I love backlighting for their hair. And so I reflect the sunlight back onto their face from the other direction. And when I was growing up, I was always told never shoot into the sun, but now I shoot into the sun all the time. That's my favorite.
Ah, interesting.
You have to have that reflector or a flash, a soul flash. I think I should, set up a little reflector on top of my phone for the selfie. That'll be my next one.
Well, that would probably be, one of those viral things that soon everybody would have them.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, what is your favorite tool that you use for photography? What's something in your arsenal that many women could?
I love Photoshop Elements. I don't care for the full version of Photoshop so much. I don't need it. Photoshop Elements does everything I want it to do. But I get rid of distracting elements. Like if there's a twig that appears to be coming out of their ear, it's not attractive, I'll get rid of that. Something bright on the edge of the picture or a car in the background, I don't want it there. I can get rid of it easily. And I don't over edit. Like like Snapchat filters. I don't do that. That's obvious, and everybody says you're not really 12. That must be embarrassing. I won't do that. You know, I edit to a level that satisfies my client for sure, but I try to keep it as minimal as possible.
Well, and I've always heard that simple and close up is better than having lots of stuff in your background. Is that true?
Oh, I like lots of stuff in my background.
Oh, okay.
I like animals. Sometimes I'll add animals, you know, birds or foxes, stags, etc. Anything that's fairy tale, you know.
And that's one. Your mom is a photographer, and she does wildlife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we
Yeah,
have.
she's 76, and she's still out photographing wild horses and bears. She's definitely a role model.
We have one of her articles, I think, that you submitted about her. So if anybody wants to read that, they can go to App 45 and look for your articles for a woman, and that's April Rose Moore. So I really appreciate all the information that you've given us today. And more importantly, thank you for sharing all those beautiful women with us.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to meeting you.
Me too. I can't wait, April. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day.